All right, so we have some more questions, and this is going to be part 2 of our interview. So our next question is, how do you prepare our lawns to be ready for something like an azalea festival or a big event coming up when it just won't be warm enough?
Well, what I say is just dig the lawn out. No.
That's it. We'll just take the time. We'll send you the bill.
No. So, people try to jump the gun with grass, and they come here from cooler climates and want to treat the grass the same. But you're dealing with warm season grasses.
Yes.
So they don't grow until, it's about 80 degrees.
Oh, 80 degrees.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they're just coming out of dormancy right now.
Right.
And here, you have to be very particular with the type of grass you choose, depending on what you're going to use it for, and also about your soil, going back to the pH.
Yes.
If you have an acidic pH, that's when you would add lime to it. But we have such different soils here.
So it's not real common to have acidic soil.
It depends.
Okay.
It's really, unfortunately, it's across the board here, so you never know.
So
it's
you
a
can't
mixed
just
bag.
assume, because you know what happens when you assume.
Yep.
I have an event coming up, like in, is it a week now?
Yeah.
The festival's
I think
coming up in a week?
yeah.
So how can we, I know we have to wait. Are there some lawns that could green up a little early? I know you can put down a ryegrass in the fall.
Yes.
That's kind of the cheater's way.
Yes, that's what we do here.
But it's beautiful.
It's just to keep it looking good year round, but really for homeowners, it's not recommended.
Okay.
It affects the grass that's obviously dormant underneath.
Okay, now I have had a thought process for many years being a farmer's daughter. We used to grow a cover crop in the winter because when it was turned under, it would help produce nitrogen. But tell me what happens for ryegrass and why that's not such a great idea for your average homeowner.
Well, you're overseeding with the ryegrass, so the ryegrass is present. It does best in cooler, shadier conditions.
Right.
So in the shadier areas, a lot of times when your other grass is coming out of dormancy, that ryegrass competes with those areas and actually performs better.
Okay.
But the other thing is that you're also fertilizing these turf grasses on the off season, when you really don't need to be, they don't want to be fertilized.
Yes. I just have to say I recently learned that it's not good to fertilize before before the first frost or before the last frost.
Oh, exactly, both.
Right, yeah, because you're going to encourage growth that may die when it freezes.
Exactly.
Oh, such a good tip. I love that. Okay, so that answered my questions. And this thing about lime, I was asking you, sorry, as she said, sometimes you come from one location to another location and you're used to gardening a certain way and you have to change. And so that lime is one tip that we need to change, isn't it?
Yep. Do your soil test to see what you need to do.
Okay, perfect information. All right, let's move on to the next question. The next one is, does the Arboretum do much organic pest control, and what brands if you do?
So we, as in certain particular areas, we definitely do organic, especially in our vegetable garden. We do donate our food to the Good Shepherd, so we want to make sure it's as safe as possible.
I did not know that. That's good information. Okay.
And so when we do use things, we use more of your cultural practices like hand picking. So somebody always gets the fun job of getting the soapy water and picking the stink bugs off of the plants.
So the next question is, does the Arboretum do much organic pest control, and what do you use, and where do you do the pest control?
So we try to use all organic products. So, there's a whole term called integrated pest management.
Right.
And the idea behind that is to figure out what your threshold is. When do we need to use the product?
You're saying that you try to use integrated pest control. Tell me what that means.
So basically, you have to determine. Is it time to spray?
Okay.
Do I need to spray? Are the beneficial insects coming in and taking care of it naturally?
Oh, it's such a good thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what am I going to spray? You always start with the safest product first. That's always important. So we're going to come in with something like a horticultural oil, an insecticidal soap.
Yes.
And then you can also do those, hand picking, the cultural practices. But you have to think about, why are the insects here to begin with? And a lot of times it's because the plant's under stress.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that. Just like with the human body.
Exactly.
When our human body isn't well, it seems that we tend to get cold easier. It needs nutrients. It needs its liquids and so on. Otherwise, that you'll be susceptible to stopping the camera and saying it right. Okay, so let's say, all right, let's start. He'll just edit. Okay, so integrated pest control, and you said that you have to ask the question as to why the insects are there.
Yep, exactly. And that's, I think, one of the downfalls with homeowners is that they go out and they find the problem, and one, they don't figure out what the problem is. What's
Yeah.
causing it? Is it
Right.
a fungus? Is it an insect?
Okay.
And then they just start spraying whatever. And then they want a quick fix. It's,
Yes.
come in and tell me what I need to spray to get rid of this.
Right.
Well, that's like what I consider putting a Band-Aid on it.
Yes.
You're not actually going in and figuring out why does the plant have the insect to begin with.
Which is so smart, because if a plant is in stress, I think you had mentioned, if a plant is in stress, it receives bugs, it gets funguses, it gets diseases easier, the same as the human body. If your human body isn't well cared for, it will get sick and have other issues. So that is a really good response to that. I'm glad you brought that up. So now, so you would have to say probably that chemical use is like your last resort.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
We try not to use any harsh chemicals, and particularly we don't use any chemicals that have a re-entry. So that means that when you spray it, there's no time period where people have to stay out of the garden.
Oh. Now, do you do companion planting?
We do. We do.
And
Yep.
that is, explain that to our viewers.
So companion planting, and we also do what's called banker plants. So
Okay.
companion planting is planting different plants together, and they're going to benefit each other in one way or another. So one thing that we do is we plant forage with tomatoes, and
Okay.
supposedly that's supposed to help with flavor.
Okay.
But we also plant banker plants, which are plants that insects tend to really love. And so the idea is that they go to that plant and leave the other plants alone.
So now, like, I have heard that marigolds work
Yep.
well in a vegetable garden.
Yep. We do
Somebody,
that. Yep.
Somebody shared a great post with me about different herbs that
Yes,
keep
we do
insects
that too.
away.
Yep.
Isn't that exciting? Oh my gosh, I would so much rather use an organic measure than a
Yes.
chemical, because of course they either hang around or we have to deal with them ingesting and so on. Not interested in that. All right, let's go to
It's
another
protein.
question. It's protein, yes. I'd rather ingest the bug before the chemical. All right, so the next question is, are the palms of Wilmington permanently damaged? I have seen lots of damage, and I believe I have what I called a
Pindo palm.
pindo
Yep.
palm. So tell us about the palms here. It just seems like they really got beat up this
Oh yeah,
winter.
they did.
Yeah, yeah.
They're marginal here. They are a tropical, and
They're
again,
not native.
They're definitely not native.
Right.
Well, actually, I've heard that they're the Sable palm is native to Bald Head Island, but don't quote me on that.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah.
forget I said that.
Yeah.
But
Good luck.
but palms, again, need those warmer temperatures.
They do.
And the most crucial part of a palm tree is what I call the bud, which is that center piece, and in the center
Right.
where that growth comes out.
Right.
If that is damaged, your palm is pretty much toast.
Oh no.
Yeah, and they're looking pretty bad, but like we have one that's been highly damaged, but it's
Uh-huh.
still alive. You can
Okay.
go up and it's firm to turn the touch.
Okay.
It's not like breaking. You still have green showing.
It's not brittle. Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So I'll have to do that with my palms. I have, oh goodness, I think 5 in the front of our property. They were there when we moved to it. And I just kept thinking, I've been here 20 plus years and I've never seen them be quite so damaged. So,
Oh.
so she said, go ahead and look for that tender, perhaps some green there, and make sure everything's not brittle. Otherwise, we might be replacing some.
Yeah, and then a lot of times I'll tell people just kind of wait and see too, because
Okay.
they're still. I mean,
Okay.
it's been so cool.
Uh-huh.
They're not even trying to wake up yet.
Right. It hasn't been consistently warm.
Exactly.
And so they're more of a tropical plant.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go to the next question. Let's see. What do you believe to be the best lawns for Wilmington area?
So, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about turf. So you want to check the soil first. And we always
Okay.
think above ground because that's what we
do.
see.
That's
but
so true.
it starts with the soil, especially
Okay.
here.
Okay.
So you want to do a soil test.
Yes, that pH soil test.
And see where your pH is, because something like centipede grass really prefers a low pH. So if you
Okay.
had that, centipede's going to be what I call the lazy man's grass. It doesn't require a lot of input, not a lot of fertilizer, not a lot of mowing,
Okay.
but it does not tolerate wear and tear,
So it's not good for traffic.
and it does not live in shade.
I think I knew that about the shade. I knew it about the traffic, but so now centipede doesn't like fertilizer too much,
Nope,
does it?
no, it sure doesn't. No.
Yeah, okay. So
1
those-
pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet, and that is it for the year.
Okay.
You don't add any more.
Okay, good to know. Those little tips are so valuable because we all love our lawns and we want them to stay green and be vibrant, but you have to know what it's going to be used for and where it's going to be put, and like she said, her soil. So what is another very popular lawn here that's effective, I should say.
So, if you do have a semi-shady area, St. Augustine is a great grass.
Yes,
for
I
it.
love St. Augustine.
I do too. It's
Is that a wider-
aesthetically pleasing.
Is that
Yep.
a wider blade?
It's
Yes.
a wider blade. That's
Yes.
why it makes me think of the cool season
Yeah,
grasses.
it's very sturdy and resilient.
Yes, it
okay.
is. So that's a good grass. But, with every grass that you choose, there's always a downfall. And that particular grass is susceptible to an insect called chinch bugs.
Oh.
And it's particularly common in sunnier areas, especially
Okay.
areas that are close to driveways and
Oh,
pavement.
good to know. Good information. Now, we dealt with mole crickets,
Oh, yeah.
evil little creatures, and
Yes.
I tried every organic measure on the planet. Just letting you know, I had to go to a chemical, sad to say, but they got so invasive that I almost didn't have a yard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we had some beautiful grass in it was just the best yard. So once we got those cared for, our yard came back to life. But now let me ask you, if I can, quickly about zoysia. I've
love
heard zoysia comes,
Yeah.
it greens when it's warm and it dies when it's cold. I mean, as soon as that first bit of cold comes. So it's not a long season grass.
No, but
Okay.
that's, I kind of have my grasses sort of in my mind as far as quality, So zoysia is kind of my favorite.
Oh,
Then
good to know.
Bermuda,
Bermuda, yep.
and then St. Augustine and centipedes down there.
So now, is zoysia a good for high
It is.
traffic?
It's excellent for high traffic.
There you go. If you have families or kids, great. Or pets?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's, oh my goodness. See, these little bits of information are helpful to you, the viewer, and to me, because as I talk to people, they'll say, oh, what about this? What about that? And I can say, I spoke to the agent, Agent Brown. Okay, so let's go with one more question. How are we doing here? What are some good full sun perennials and good part shade to full shade perennials?
Oh, gosh. As far as perennials go, there's so many.
There are so many. Well, what are just some of your favorites?
I love Stokesia or Stokes aster.
Okay.
That's one of my favorites. Gosh, my mind is going blank. Salvias.
Salvias. Love salvias.
and they bring in the beneficials.
Of course, they're good for butterflies
Yeah,
and hummingbirds.
exactly.
And,
Yeah.
Yep.
I love the swamp hibiscus. Those
Oh.
are really nice. They have
Okay.
like plate-sized blooms. They're very striking.
Yes, I didn't realize that. See, I have some of the big plate hibiscus too, but I never heard them called the swamp hibiscus.
Well, there's
different varieties. I'm
yeah,
sure.
and this is a native hibiscus. So
Oh.
oftentimes when you're driving down 40, you'll see them along the roads blooming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I dabble in a lot of ornamentals, but I do like to do a lot of natives that kind of mixed in.
Yes. Well, so explain why you like natives. I think I know why you do, but tell me why gardeners should try to stay with the native plants.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the native plants have evolved with the
Yes.
native insects
Yes.
And pollinators, and so a lot of people don't realize that insects can't always feed on a lot of different host plants. They have specific plants.
Okay.
And they've created these adaptions so that
Right.
what they can do, like for instance, most people know what butterfly weed is,
Right.
Or milkweed.
Right.
There's a beetle that only feeds on that genus.
And
Asclepias.
isn't there a certain butterfly
Yep,
that only
the
yes,
monarch.
right?
Uh-huh.
The monarch that loves the milkweed. Yeah.
Yeah, and the beetle will actually sever the midrib of the leaf and let the latex sap out so that it's able to feed on.
Oh my goodness.
So
So
it's
creative.
just amazing. Yeah.
Yes, it is so creative. All right.